Fellow Araxians, hello, Commander Cyrious here. Well, we've had 2 streams from the CEO of Distinct Possibility Studios, John Smedley, that give us a pretty good picture of what the game's going to be. I'm going to condense that 2.5 hours into about 10 to 12 minutes of explaining everything we know so far about Reaper Actual. And in his second stream, he dropped a little tidbit about just how huge outfit versus outfit fights can be. Let's dive in, soldiers. I'll see you on Morova. Okay, so I tried to structure some of all these information tidbits as best I could, but his streams jump around a little bit, and this video kind of keys into that in a few places. First, this game will have servers internationally. He mentioned Japan, Korea, Europe, South America, North America, Australia. Planetside 2 ran into a problem where it didn't have servers all around the globe, and they had some complicated agreements with other companies to get servers in places like Russia and China, and that stuff all fell apart. Here it sounds like they're really putting energy in making sure they have servers distributed around the globe, so no matter where you play from, you should be able to get a good ping. So, at a very high level, this game is an extraction shooter. The CEO tried to use a baby analogy that didn't turn out great, so I'm going to break it down a little further. It is extraction shooter and looting elements of Escape from Tarkov. It is extraction shooter and gunplay, much like Call of Duty DMZ. But the extraction events play out more like Rainbow Six Siege. So rather than sneaking around like you would in Tarkov, on the defense, you're setting up traps, you're using intel, you're trying to barricade and protect your base from people getting in. Offense, you're using abilities and utilities to break your way into their fortress. And on top of all of this, it's not match-based like all of those games. It is a persistent open-world shooter. They're going to use a missions system to try to get people to engage with that open world. We'll talk about that more a little bit later. So, in this game, you do have what they call Reapers, but what are actually operators. And sometimes games with that version of character creation, that's the wrong word, but sometimes it's called a hero shooter. The bottom line is you don't create your own character. You start with an operator, and you do have some customization from there. Operators have a range of abilities that makes them unique, and they also have a basic loadout. So when you die in this game, while you do drop your equipment, you don't respawn empty-handed, you respawn with an operator's base loadout, so you can still get right back to the action. So for example, if you had a legendary sniper rifle you were using, that would get left behind, and you would start back with a green or white variant. Okay, next let's dive into bases. Your home base is where you bring your loot back to. There will be a vault there to store your stuff. You can also store your vehicles there, and you can craft. So it's a place for your character progression to happen. You can set up defenses in your base, traps, turrets, stuff like that. Your defenses can be destroyed if it's assaulted. So you are trying to defend your base and make sure your vault is not accessed, and you also want to go out in the world and do some missions and try to access vaults in other bases. You can do this in a PvP or a PvE manner, so against NPCs or real players. We'll talk more about that later. There are going to be different types of bases. Here you're looking at a warehouse base. Downside is there are a lot of different entrances and exits, so harder to defend against the building. Upside is it's great for crafting. As they bring us more info on additional base types, I will get that released to you. So, now let's jump over to monetization real quick. The 2 things we've talked about, Reapers and bases, is what they're selling. Yes, you can grind for them with in-game currency, but if there's a new mansion base or skyscraper base or something like that that releases, you would be able to just buy it with premium currency. Same goes for Reapers. They will periodically release new Reapers that will have new unique loadouts, and they will also release skins for Reapers. You can think about Apex Legends or Overwatch, where it's the same base character, but they have a new cosmetic look. So it makes it sound like that's kind of the main route: skins, Reapers, and bases. There will be battle passes as well. They are writing story arcs for the game, and missions will kind of flow from that main story arc. And you should expect a battle pass to be released with that story arc. And there will be bundles. For example, there will be an alpha or a foundation bundle. He said the cheapest version he expects to be $29.99, and there will be more premium versions. He said he didn't think it would go over $100 for the most premium version. But that's just kind of the initial launch bundle. Who knows as we go forward in time. Now, the game will eventually be free to play. He thought that might be like 6 months after launch. But while there's no monthly fee to manage server load, you will have to be a paying member buying one of those initial bundles to get in and play at launch. Now let's talk a little bit about heat level and how you can get into the PvP elements of the game. As you are out there in the world, the open world, fighting, completing missions, attacking other bases, you will increase your heat level. If you're playing against NPCs, it'll be a very small increase. Playing against players, it'll be a much higher. If you let your heat level get high enough, then other players will be able to raid your base. So as you head for extraction, right when you get back to the base, there'll be maybe a 10-minute period where other players can assault your base. And you would have the opportunity to defend it. One thing that Smedley mentioned is any Reapers you've purchased, not the one you're using, but the other ones, will be in your base ready to defend it as an NPC character. You know, obviously in this day and age, they call it all AI, but AI has been around since Half-Life. So yes, it is AI, but it's what we know of as an NPC. Now, the lore of Morova. Morova is the fictional island this takes place on, and there is a massive civil war going on. They do have a big backstory for it that they're going to slowly release details on, but you don't see civilians around because the civil war has driven them out. So at this point, there are 5 main factions battling for control of various parts of Morova, and you are going to be able to faction grind. He said it's going to be a lot like an MMORPG in terms of you can do missions or kill members of the opposing faction to increase your faction with whatever group you'd like. So it's a big, persistent open world map, and there's lots of weather and day-night cycles. At the time of recording, it was 15 minutes of night, an hour of day. There are rain cycles where puddles build up over time, and then those puddles will evaporate and dissipate. Rain will affect the world. There's pros and cons to it. The negative is it will reduce visibility. The pro is that NPCs won't detect you as early. Sound muffling and visibility. So you can use it to shroud some movements. So they are really spending a lot of time on making sure the world is extremely immersive and will actually have an impact of generating different styles of gameplay. You'll have to adapt to the environment. To get across this huge open world map, there are land, sea, and air vehicles. For a lot of areas, extracting with a subway will be pretty common. They plan on adding a functional subway that's doing loops around the map. Currently, it's just a basic extraction timer. You can also obtain flares and extract with a helicopter. Obviously, that'll draw a lot more attention to yourself. Is there territory control? No territory control in this game. The only thing you can actually own is your base. When you raid other bases, you can take some stuff from the vault and from what you pull off of characters, but you will not control that base. In terms of what you can carry, they do have a Tetris-style inventory. They don't plan on doing a weight system right now. There is going to be an AI system that manages the missions, Cyrious, and so while they will write a kind of main level story arc, this mission system is going to try to make players interact and clash. So one player could have a mission to go kill an NPC general, and another player might have a mission to stop that from happening. So this AI mission control module is how they're going to make it so that in a big open world, people actually find other people to fight. Now that doesn't mean you couldn't just kind of go anywhere you want. There are going to be PvE elements. So those 5 factions are going to be at different areas on the map, and you could go fight them. So there's going to be some sandbox and theme park sort of elements in trying to create the action on the map. They did say they're going to use AI to not make the art, but they'll hire an artist to create 10 versions of something, and the AI could expand it to 20. The AI could also create throwaway traders or throwaway characters. Like if you're supposed to go kill Colonel what's-his-name, the AI will build on the work that some of the artists have done and create a new character just for that mission. What platforms is the game coming to? At first, it will just be PC, and they are hoping to expand to consoles. They do not have plans to support Linux at this time. What are they doing for anti-cheat? They are going to be using easy anti-cheat, kernel level anti-cheat. John Smedley, the CEO, said he is going to be taking this very seriously. He said he's literally going to be suing the shit out of hackers. He had a run-in with some of them at his days at Sony Online Entertainment. Really pissed him off, rubbed him the wrong way, so he will be very vigilant about making sure hackers stay away. Can people play multiple accounts? He said yes, they're not going to stop people from doing that, but he doesn't think it'll be very functional in a shooter game like this. Another thing to note, there's not going to be a mini-map by default. You can see that on the screen here. You can craft or loot in the game satellite receivers or I think maybe radar devices or infrared devices. They could grant that functionality, but it's something you have to build or equip in the world, not something you get by default. And finally, I want to chat about outfits, otherwise known as clans or guilds in other types of games. And these have the potential to unlock large-scale MMO FPS style play Planetside 2 players are used to. Let's listen in to Smedley for a moment.
With the layout, it also comes with a theme, which we're going to let players edit and add stuff. Here's what you can't do. You're not moving furniture around. The reason that we didn't want to go that far is that this isn't Rust. And most importantly, what we wanted was to make sure at all times that your base is an actual deathmatch map. And those deathmatch maps can get huge. We have some bases that can allow 100 versus 100 outfit battles. In our world, clans are called outfits. We like the name, and you know, that was one that we used in Planetside 2, so it's kind of stuck here. So we do want big battles to happen. We definitely want to let people, the big outfits raid each other's bases, or the small ones, right? Like I said, if you're cruising around, you can actually damage, or you can attract enough heat that other people can follow you in. You can also put your base up to let people raid your base if you want to as well. But what we won't do is make it so that your base can be raided when you're offline.
So a key thing he explained there at the beginning is the goal of your base is not to make it like an impenetrable fortress with all these little tricks and traps. It still is supposed to be a relatively fair battle between the assaulting force and the defensive force. So you can strategically set up defenses like turrets, but you can't create something that funnels people into a grinder or a shotgun trap where they instantly die and have no way to fight back. But the big thing he said there is they have created areas that can hold 100 versus 100 battles. Now he's really just talking potential. So I could see at launch, if they're going to allow two outfits to sign up for a deathmatch versus each other, they may limit it to 32 versus 32 or 64 versus 64. Sort of like the battle bit model there. But I'm hoping they don't do that. Either right away or very quickly, they allow, if 200 is the maximum amount of players on a server, then they allow 100 versus 100 right away. Now, clans may get that big, but it seems like the co-op play is kind of targeted at 4 players. So I feel like clans will end up being a little bit smaller in that case. But what I think can happen is if they're going to rent out servers and allow people to customize and mod those servers, you can just mod one so it focuses on those 100 versus 100 maps. And that server could rotate, and it would be just like a deathmatch, but it could rotate battles across the 4 points of interest or whatever is big enough to allow those 100 versus 100 battles. And players could sort of get in there and play them out. It would be a lot like a MAG, massive action game, or what Planetside Arena alluded to is having those big 100 versus 100 battles. So the way I read it is it's not by default something they're going to be pushing in the game, 100 versus 100, but I, for one, would throw down to rent a server right away and say, hey, this is the Planetside server. We're just going to set up massive scale battles. I'm hoping you could kind of create objectives, sort of like generators or points. I would obviously do it a little different than Planetside 2, but you could kind of set up your own win conditions in that 100 versus 100 battle. Okay, soldiers, there you have it. That is what we know so far about Reaper Actual. As more news gets released, I will make sure to bring it to you right away. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, and follow on our socials. Otherwise, I am Commander Cyrious, and until next time, I will see you Planetside.